For joining us today, Jennifer Schaus and Associates Complimentary Webinar Series. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C. today. This year on Fridays, we're covering procurement playbooks. We'll take a deep dive into doing business with the agencies and departments with our panelists. On Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, we will cover the FAR supplements or procurement regulations for the agencies and departments. Fridays, we will cover the business development and marketing aspects of the corresponding agencies and departments. The full schedule and the sign-up links are on our website. We'll be hosting a complimentary webinar on what federal contractors need to know about COVID mandates on Thursday, March 17th at 12 p.m. Eastern. The registration link is provided below. In addition, we will be hosting our spring networking event on Monday, March 28th from 5:30 to 7:30. And again, the registration link is below. We would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Virginia PTAC at GMU offers free one-on-one counseling to firms in Virginia on federal, state, and local procurement topics. Online resources and group trainings are free with no restriction on business location. If you are interested in learning more, please use the links provided to explore what PTACs can offer. And a special thanks to our sponsor, the Federal Business Council. The FBC creates and manages virtual and in-person meetings and events to connect appropriate industry and government thought leaders, product providers, and solutions with government programs that use them. The FBC works within mission-specific programs for a variety of agencies to connect government and industry in the form of in-person and virtual conferences, training events, policy dialogue, and outreach. Over the last 40 years, FBC has become a comprehensive resource for connecting industry and federal government. We'd also like to thank our friends at C3 Integrated Solutions. C3 is a full-service IT provider helping DoD contractors achieve CMMC 2.0, DFARS, and NIST 800-171 compliance through cloud-based solutions including Microsoft 365, GCC, and GCC High. You can reach out to them at info@c3isit.com. And we'd also like to thank Gov White Papers. Looking to connect with government and military decision makers? GovWhitePapers.com is a free resource for the public sector and supporting industries to find, post, and promote government and military-related content. Stay informed on topics like Navy, Marine Corps, cybersecurity, COVID-19, AI, education, and more. Plus, upload your organization's content for free to boost your website traffic and exposure in the government community. Our B2G advertising options connect you with our targeted government and military audience, including premium content subscriptions that provide dated content promotion plus lead delivery directly to your inbox. Claim your free membership on govwhitepapers.com today to get started. And lastly, to our friends at Dastin. Dastin is an IT and cloud solutions provider working with corporations, the military, and government agencies to lower their costs, increase scalability, improve operational efficiency, and meet compliance regulations using targeted cloud-based solutions. Dastin is a certified partner of Oracle NetSuite, a premier tier Google Cloud partner, and a certified partner of Cisco Virtue, AO Docs, and Authenticate. Let our expert project management professionals and consultants transform your organization into a modern, cloud-powered engine built for the future growth and operational efficiency. Our easy-to-use software has robust functionality for the 5 most critical KPIs for GovCom built-in: backlog, pipeline, EAC, DSO, and wrap rate. For more information about Dastin's service or to schedule a complimentary consultation, email Joe Alston, ALSTON, @dastin.com, or visit our website at dastin.com. And today we are covering doing business with the Navy and Marine Corps. Let's meet today's panelists. We want to thank our friends at FedMine, Mrs. Archisa Mehan. Great to have you with us, Archisa.
It's great to be here and discuss the Marine Corps and Navy with everyone.
Thank you, Archisa. And we'd also like to thank Austin Johnson from Marine Corps for joining us today. Great to have you with us, Austin.
Thank you so much, Colton, for having me. I look forward to sharing with all of my participants today.
Thank you, Austin. And now we will look at business opportunities and outlook for the U.S. Marine.
Thank you. So FedMine is a federal market intelligence company that basically integrates the 18 federal data sites into one easy-to-use platform, allowing reporting and analysis that was not previously possible. We are now part of GovSpend, the largest provider of data and purchase orders on the state, local, and education market. So with GovSpend and FedMine, we are now one company providing the best data in the Fed and the SLED fields. So next slide. So I always like to sort of put in a little bit of a mission or a vision statement of the agency, and this is the one for the Marine Corps. And I love the fact when they say that we will excel as the nation's expeditionary force of choice. So, part of what I learn when I'm doing these webinars is actually getting a little bit more into the agencies. So I just thought I would share that. Next slide. So the Marine Corps has last fiscal year did a little more than $3 billion in contracts, slightly more than the previous fiscal year. And they awarded the contracts to 1,900 companies in FY 2021. If we could go to the next slide. When you start looking at the spend at the Navy by the various components or optives or whatever each agency calls their various divisions, the Marine Corps is right up there in the top 10 and accounts for about 8% in terms of I'm sorry, not percent, sorry. I thought it was percent, but my mistake. And then in terms of the top companies, BAE, Titan, SAIC, Honeywell, these are all the top companies overall within the Marine Corps. So I always like to point that out. Next slide. Wanting to look at, how is the agency awarding the contract? And in this case, I sort of used also a little bit of the Psc codes. In terms of the NAICS codes, it's always good to see how the agency is awarding the contracts against all the various NAICS codes. But many times it's also good to look at, the Psc codes and sort of put that against each other, because many times, and especially as we get into category management, the Psc codes really give a very good idea of what that true requirement is. So I'll always encourage our clients to also pay attention to the Psc codes. But again, no surprises when I'm looking at the NAICS code that, the military armored vehicles and the navigation guidance type of NAICS codes are very much up there, along with computer related services, and logistics, of course. So next slide. Now, when it comes to looking at the small contracts that are awarded within the Marine Corps, we have more than 30% of the total dollars awarded going to small businesses. So that's like a little less than $1 billion. And that was awarded to more than 1,300 companies. Next slide. What is always good to look at is how are the contracts being awarded to small business? And what are the types of various set-asides that are being used? So it's always good to see contracts being awarded as woman-owned small businesses, and it's not many agencies do that, but it's really good to see those numbers right here. See how the contracts are being awarded, whether by 8A sole sources or even as to SDV or SB set-asides. Looking at your top prime contracts, you have the Cherokee Nation management companies, and it's a nice mix of companies that you see here. So again, just to give you a quick look at who are the top prime contractors at an agency, whether we're looking at just small business or other than small business, because it's just to give you that intelligence as you're trying to understand companies that are winning the contracts. When are those contracts possibly expiring? Do you have any potential for creating the teaming relationships or the mentor-protege type of relationship? So next slide. Also, when you start looking at contracts that are awarded within an agency, but then you start dissecting it by your various socioeconomic categories, in this case, I'm just looking at small businesses, they will change. You might see the types of contracts that are going to large businesses, of course, not here, but you'll also see things like warehousing and optical instrument and lens manufacturing as one of the top 10 NAICS codes when we're looking at the Marine Corps and just small business contracts. So next slide. With the OTAs, I thought it would be good to pay attention to what contracts have been awarded as other transactional authority type of contracts at the Marine Corps. About little less than $119 million were awarded. Of course, these don't have any NAICS codes, but it's always good to see the Psc codes on these types of contracts. And then, of course, have a look at who are your top companies that are winning these contracts. And you do have a pretty good mix here of the Raytheons and Oshkosh and, of course, the consortium management group. So just to give you a quick look there. Next slide, please. And then, I did mention Psc codes and categories. Categories are a very good way to get a quick look at what an agency is doing, how are they awarding contracts. And this is looking at Marine Corps totally, and no surprises, professional services, R&D, and IT are very much part of your top categories. And it's always great to see how, in professional services, 75% of those contracts are going as small business, which is amazing. So again, just to give you a look and see what's going to small versus other than small businesses. And again, part of looking at all the data and what an agency's done is really to help you understand, focus, and make sure that the agency that you are in or you're targeting or you want to grow your relationships with is the right agency for you. So next slide. Again, when we start looking at an agency, with the category management and strategic sourcing initiatives that's across all agencies, it gets to be even more interesting to see what are the various IDIQs and GVACs that are being used at an agency. What is even great is, especially if you're focusing on, for example, the Marine Corps, put in your keywords and see what, how's that agency purchasing on the various GVACs with your NAICS codes or keywords or whatever combination and filters you might want to use. So looking at the Marine Corps, Seaport Next Gen, NASA SOUP, OASIS Unrestricted Pool 1s, these are all your top GVACs that are being used, including 8A stars. So it's a nice mix when you're looking at it. Cool. And then this time I thought I would also share a little bit about the subcontracts. We pull the subcontract data from USA Spending, and I believe USA Spending gets it from FSRS. For those who want to look it up, fsrs.gov. So for fiscal year 21, we have about $300 million that were awarded by 30 prime contractors to 192 sub-awardees, which is amazing. You could see who are your top primes within the Marine Corps, with BAE, Leidos being right up there. And then also pay attention to the various types of NAICS codes that are being used to award these subcontracts. So this is really where you want to start looking at those relationships. BAE definitely has a large contract, but they definitely seem to be awarding and working with a lot of small businesses to make sure that they're making their subcontracting goals and doing their part for the small businesses. So again, have a look at subcontracts, understand who are the primes, who are they working with, what are they getting from the various subcontractors, what price level, and again, helps you create your strategy. Next slide. So we always talk about opportunities, and what we've realized and what we see in the most successful companies that are growing. The opportunities are, of course, opportunities that are based on the new initiative. So looking at the budgets and strategic plans, and understanding where the agency is going and creating those possible solutions, talking with the agencies, talking with the small business people and officers at an agency really helps you fine tune and create those opportunities for yourself. And then, of course, you have contracts that are expiring over a specific period of time that could be recompeted. And those definitely are also your opportunities, that you want to start creating, looking at. And these can be fine-tuned based on, again, keywords, socioeconomic categories. 8A statuses, expiring 8As, things like that. And now again, where do you get your information? Of course, all your budgets, strategic plans, the various Exhibit 53s and 300s that are out there. Also looking at what notices are being released on SAM.gov, focusing maybe on some of the pre-solicitations and source of sort notices and responding to them. And then, of course, like we say, create those expiring contract searches on what you do. If you're on new vehicle, look at the expiring contracts on those vehicles, or what was, the predecessor of that vehicle. So again, put all of that information together and create those opportunities that are for your business. So next slide. So let's look at the Marine Corps. We have more than $4 billion that were awarded as other than small businesses that are expiring in the next 12 months, and have a look at your various NAICS codes that those contracts fall under. And again, I would say, if you're a small business and you're looking at contracts that are expiring that were awarded as other than small business, this is an opportunity for you to create your relationships and talk to those incumbents. Next slide. And just to give you, here are your top 10 contracts that are expiring in the next 12 months, just to make life easier. Next slide. Again, when I start looking at the small business contracts, I have $1.3 billion that are expiring in the next 12 months. Quick look at what those companies are, what are those contracts. Of course, keep in mind, not all of them are going to be recompeted. Some projects might have, met the end of life, or, could be product type of, contracts too. So again, honing in on your keywords and what you do gets to be super important. Next slide. And then just a quick look with your small business expiring contracts in terms of, what was set aside and what are your top NAICS codes. Of course, when you're using any intelligence provider, you would, of course, fine tune with keywords and get a set of results that are just based on your search criteria. And then, of course, let's look at some of the opportunities. And I just did a quick search on, and this was last week, on pre-solicitations and source of sort, just at the, within the Navy. And just to give you a quick look, this was at the Marine Corps actually. And you could see all the ones that were open for pre-solicitations and source of sort. So respond to them. I think all the agencies that we talk with will always say companies need to respond to the source of sort and pre-solicitations, because it is a way that they do market research. So. And I did give links for the strategic plan, which was very comprehensive, as also the FY22 budget. So I would highly recommend using them. They do have a lot of good information. And I think next slide. And I think with this, it goes to Austin from the Marine Corps.
Thank you, Archiza. And now we'll move on to an inside perspective from the government. And Austin, the floor is yours.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Colton. And Archiza, I tell you, you were very, very thorough and detailed, and you've made my life here this afternoon much easier, because you were very, very detailed. And the only thing that I will add is I want to share a little bit about the organization. When you start to do business inside the government, it's very, very important to do your research and understand how we're organized. Of course, the Marine Corps is a part of the Department of the Navy, which is also part of the Department of Defense. And so the Department of the Navy is organized with 10 buying commands. And within the Marine Corps, which is a service inside the Department of the Navy, there are 2 buying commands. My command is Marine Corps Systems Command, located at Quantico, Virginia. And the second buying command is at the headquarters. It is Headquarters Marine Corps for Installation and Logistics. I always make that distinction because Marine Corps Systems Command, our focus is primarily on providing equipment for the warfighter. Whereas Headquarters Marine Corps Installation and Logistics if you think about the number of installations, posts, camps, and stations where Marines may be stationed for training before deploying off into warfighting theaters, then Headquarters Marine Corps INL provides the contract support for all of those installation and logistics sites. Whereas again, Marine Corps Systems Command, we provide all of the contract support for equipment that needs to get into the hands of the warfighter. We have about 2,500 employees here at Marine Corps Systems Command. We're located all across the country, Camp Pendleton, California, Orlando, Florida. We have the bulk of our employees are here at Quantico, about 1,500 out of the 2,500. And I always like to remind small businesses that we are always open for business, especially small businesses. And I'm not going to try and recap everything that Archisha shared, but we have traditionally awarded 25 to 30% of our overall spend to small business, which is remarkable because those 10 buying committees within the Department of the Navy, we all feed into or support the Department of the Navy's small business goals that they receive from the Department of Defense, which is typically about 15%. But as you might imagine, our larger buying commands, our Naval Air Systems support out at Patuxent River, Maryland, and our Naval Sea Services Command up at the Navy Yard in DC, they spend over half of the Navy's annual budget because, of course, they're procuring aircraft and ships, which are top dollar items. Next slide, please. So what you have on these two slides are links to our website. And like I said earlier, if you plan to market to either one of the buying commands within the Department of the Navy, please, Department of the Navy or the Marine Corps, please go out, visit those websites. A lot of great information on there. You'll see our small business strategies. You'll see our POC listings for all of the small business offices across the country and even overseas in Okinawa and Korea. And you will also find on the small business website, you'll find our forecast, which I think we're going to get to here in a minute. Just a word on forecasts. Of course, forecasts are living, breathing documents. They can change, maybe not hour to hour, but they can change from day to day because the forecast is dependent upon a budget. And as many of you all are keenly aware, we are, over the last several years, we've been operating under what's called continuing resolutions. And so what the continuing resolutions do is basically fund you at your current level. So until new budgets are approved, we really can't plan to buy a lot of the things that we need to provide to our fighting force until we know we have the dollars to pay for it. To put something on contract that there's not available funding for is a violation of the Anti-Deficiency Act. And I'm sure some of you are probably aware of that. I definitely encourage you to visit the two websites indicated by these links. And there's a wealth of information to include phone numbers and emails for myself, my colleague, Carlton Higgins, up at Headquarters Marine Corps INL. And we are very responsive. So if you'd like to send an email, a phone call to set up a meeting, I would definitely encourage you doing so. Next, please. The forecast, as I said, we have a forecast listed. We typically update the forecast in January and July. And so this past January, because we were under a continuing resolution, you may see things on there. If you went out, you may see things on there that whose time frame has passed. That does not mean that the requirement went away. It just signifies that the funding was available, and so we may not have had a chance to award the contract. You may see things on there that we plan to award in the second or third quarter. Those things may go away if we don't get the necessary funding. So when you look at the forecast, the best thing to do is just highlight things on there that you feel that your company can support us with, and then reach out to myself or reach out to my colleague at Headquarters Marine Corps INL just to make sure that those requirements are still open and available, and find out when the solicitations may drop, or if we plan to set them aside for small business and sole source direct award them. So that's the best advice I can give as far as the forecast. But I get a lot of phone calls, and I always remind everyone that the forecast is simply a wish list. It's like your grocery list. You know, when you do your grocery list and you go to the supermarket, there's a lot of things that you'd like to buy, but if you just don't have the money right now, you can't get it. You have to wait until the dollars come in, and so that's kind of the way the forecast is, for the lack of a better explanation. Next slide, please. And the SBA scorecard. The SBA scorecard is something, if you went out to the Department of Defense website, SBA each year, they rate or rank orders, all of the departments in the government. And so the Department of Defense basically gives out goals, both prime contracting and subcontracting goals each year, each fiscal year, to all of the military departments and all of the services. And so what the SBA scorecard will do is show you how well the Department of Defense and the department and those service departments did in achieving those small business goals. Very, very important. The Biden administration has challenged the Department of Defense and other agencies this year to increase awards to small disadvantaged businesses by 11%. That's huge. That's very, very critical. And so next year, we'll see how that has impacted the SBA scorecard, because we all plan to try and award as many contracts to SDBs as we can. But like I said, 11% is huge. We're going to give it a good shot, but wait out on that one, and let's see next year how we did. Next slide, please. On this particular chart, what I want to do is just highlight some of the events, some of the industry days that we either conduct, host, or participate in at Marine Corps Systems Command. We conduct quarterly small business roundtables. Right now, they're virtual. We started these back in 2018. To date, we've conducted about 11 of them. Each roundtable, we're able to host 20 to 25 small businesses that they get 2 minutes to introduce the company. Of course, they're listening in to see what other small businesses are on. It's a great networking opportunity. It's a great opportunity to learn more about Marine Corps Systems Command. We hear from the leadership. We have our executive director. We have our director of contracts. We have myself, the small business director, and also we usually will have a program manager or a small business that has done business with us in the past, or a large business, to talk about how it is doing business with the Marine Corps, some of the challenges and some of the successes. And so I would definitely encourage, if you're interested in attending those small business roundtable, is just drop me an email and let me know that you want to be added to our distro list or the invitation list for the roundtables. We also do quarterly contracts industry days. We started those during COVID, so they're only been around for about 1.5 years or 2 years. But those contract industry days can accommodate up to 250 businesses, large and small. And so whereas the small business roundtables are a little bit more informal, a little bit more intimate, the contracts industry days, we reach out to a larger population. And what happens there is the contract leads for each of our programs will brief 2 to 4 opportunities that they have available coming out, whether they're full and open competition or small business set-asides. What they do is they brief those, they let you know who the points of contact are, both from the program management office and the contract team, if you wanted to contact them and find out a little bit more about each requirement. The next group of events are events that will be coming up during this fiscal year. All of them are in person, so everyone is going back to in-person events this year. The first one is the first week of April. From the 4th to the 6th of April is the Sea, Air, and Space Expo. That's an event that's sponsored by the Navy League. It's an annual event. It was virtual in 2020 due to COVID, but in August of 2021, they came back in person. And this year in August, we'll be back in person at the Gaylord Convention Center in Oxon Hill, Maryland. The Modern Day Marine Expo will be conducted on the 10th through the 12th of May in the Washington, D.C. Convention Center. Now, this event, for the past 30 plus years, have been conducted outdoors in a large outdoor tent environment at Marine Corps Base Quantico, but we decided to move it to the Washington, D.C. Convention Center to make it more user-friendly, to make it amenable to government agencies and participants who may be within the Beltway to come out and attend it. And so we're hoping for a really, really great turnout this year for our Modern Day Marine Expo. This is the largest expo that's done within the Marine Corps. It rivals the AUSA that the Army does, and I believe the Air Force does an event similar. The Special Operations Forces Industry Conference is a little bit smaller conference. As you all know, the special ops community is very, very large, but the reason we attend that from the Small Business Office is we want to know some of that latest technology and innovations and some of the tools of the trade, as we call them, that are being used in the Special Operations Forces that may be used in our more conventional forces. And so that event is conducted from the 16th through the 18th of May in Tampa, Florida, which is also where the Special Operations and Central Commands are located. On 16 June, a one-day event, the 31st Annual Government Procurement Conference. This is a conference where every agency in the federal government is there for matchmaking. And so I would highly encourage you as a small business, or any business for that matter, to come out and attend that event. There's hundreds of exhibits from small businesses as well as government agencies. But the highlight of the event, of course, is the small business matchmaking that's conducted there during that government procurement conference. The National Hub Zone Conference is conducted annually out at Chantilly, Virginia, and the Marriott Westfields out near the Dulles Airport. And so that event is going to be from 31st August to the 2nd of September. And then our last major outreach event for fiscal year 2022 will be conducted on the 6th through the 8th of September out in San Diego, and that is the Navy Gold Coast Small Business Training Conference. From a training perspective for small businesses, that's one of the largest conferences that we do each year out on the West Coast, because as we conduct a lot of events here inside the Beltway, a lot of our small businesses, as well as our customers out on the West Coast, cannot or do not choose to travel because of funds and other things, do not choose to travel to a lot of the events we have here. And so the Navy Gold Coast Small Business Training Conference in September is key to get in front of those businesses, to let them know that they can support us from the West Coast as well. And then finally, we have technology demos and experiments. We have monthly tech talks. We in the Marine Corps Systems Command, we have a Chief Technology Officer. His name is Louis Velasquez, and he hosts these tech talks. What he does is he goes out and find technology companies that are on the cutting edge of cyber technology, computer technology, and they conduct these tech talks just to share information, to make sure that we're poised to support our services as well as our country and the type of technology that we need to prevent our key information and intelligence systems from being hacked. Next slide, please. I just wanted to share a few of the best practices that have worked at Marine Corps Systems Command and throughout the Department of the Navy. One of which being our vendor awareness. What we do is use our small business dynamic search and social media to seek out those small business vendors that we will use to develop a vendor list or a vendor file, as you see in the second bullet there. What we do is, when small businesses reach out to us, we ask for a copy of their capability statement. We ask for their contact information. And so what we're doing is we're building a vendor file as a management tool in order to not only keep industry partners aware of our upcoming projects, but also it's a tool that our contract specialists can use when they get ready to do market research. And so that saves a lot of time and a lot of money when they can go out to our vendor file and do their own market research, and not have to spend a lot of time on Google or other search engines trying to find small businesses that can perform certain contracts via keyword searching. That third bullet there, our virtual vendor days and roundtables, I talked a little bit about that. That is basically our small business roundtables and our contracts industry days. Like I said, we've been doing those for about the last 2 or 3 years, very, very successful. And a lot of the other buying commands within the Department of the Navy have caught on, and they're doing them in their commands as well. We continue to encourage participation. As Chiza mentioned earlier, we have some contracts that we award through other transaction authority or ATAs. We have the CRADAs, the competitive research and development agreements that we do, and then we have the PIAs that we encourage industry to participate in. We continue to encourage our program managers and our contracts teams to involve small business, that's us, early in the acquisition process, so that we can make sure those opportunities that should be set aside for small business are set aside. Currently within the Marine Corps, and probably in the DoD wide, about 20 to 25%, in some cases, in some years, up to 30% of the overall spend are awarded to small business. But we still have to stay on top of that, because we don't want to get to a point where small businesses are not winning a requisite amount of contracts, so that in a way that it affects our small business industrial base. We conduct one-on-one meetings. Those are typically in person, but due to COVID restrictions, we went virtual in March of 2020. I'm anticipating sometime this summer, June, July timeframe, that we can start back doing those one-on-one meetings in person. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that one. And the DoD Mentor Protege Program, an excellent program for small businesses that may be graduating from the 8A program or some of the other socioeconomic categories, to partner with large companies. As some of you all saw, we do a lot of business with large primes like BAE Systems. In our case, BAE Systems is the manufacturer of our amphibious combat vehicle, which is a $3 billion program. And so there is a lot of subcontracting opportunity with a company like BAE Systems. And so if you as a small business have subcontracted with them, and you have developed a relationship and would like to pursue a mentor protege agreement with them, then DoD provides funding to that large prime to mentor those small businesses. So it's a great program, and I always encourage small businesses to apply, reach out to large businesses and apply for the DoD Mentor Protege Program. And of course, the most important part of my job is to continue to increase the knowledge of hub zones and women-owned small businesses, because those are traditionally underutilized socioeconomic categories. Everyone typically will award contracts to service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, small disadvantaged businesses in our 8A programs, but oftentimes women-owned small businesses and the hub zone are our two most difficult goals. And so from a government side, I always encourage our program management teams and our and our contracts teams to award whenever and wherever possible, award those contracts to women-owned small businesses and hub zones. And so we're going to continue to beat the drum on that. But other than that, that pretty much sums up most of the best practices that we have going on at this time. One of the things that our chief mentioned in her brief is, if you have not read the 38th Commandant's planning guidance, I would highly, highly encourage reading that. And then if you go to the DoD website, there is an article from the Assistant Secretary of Defense, Kathleen Hicks, about how competition is such a critical part of sustaining the industrial base. I would highly encourage reading that article as well, because it gives you some perspective on where acquisition, contracting is going in the future, in the next 5 to 10 years. So I would definitely encourage reading those articles, so that you can remain abreast of what's happening in the contracting community, particularly for small businesses. Colton, other than that, that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Austin. That was a lot of great information. And if anyone is interested in reaching out to Austin, has any questions about doing business with the Marine Corps, we are providing Austin's email address in the last slide of the presentation, so we encourage you to stick around for that. We're now going to move on to doing business with the U.S. Navy. We're going to be continuing our discussion with Archiza, and we're going to be looking at the business opportunities and outlook for doing business with the U.S. Navy. Archiza, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Austin. That was so much of great information, and I love the fact that you are truly promoting women-owned small business and hub-zone contracts. And like you said, those are the social categories that a lot of agencies struggle with. So it's great to see the push and the contracts, that we see set aside. So definitely what you're doing is working. So getting back to the Navy, again, let's have a look at the mission of the Navy. Again, it protects America at sea and helps defend freedom and preserve our economic prosperity. So truly one of the most important agencies. Next slide. And we see that because in one of my previous slides, and if I mistake not, the Navy is one of the top agencies, right? I think it's the second or third one in terms of spending for FY21. Again, quick look, many agency components within the Navy, and we got a lot of good information from Austin on the Marine Corps. So next slide. So looking at the Navy, we have, again, $113 billion that were awarded to more than 18,000 companies. It is a drop from FY21, but more in line with the FY19. I'm thinking FY20 had a bump, and I'm sure part of it was related to the pandemic and the additional spending that we saw across all agencies that were pandemic related. Again, when you start looking at the top companies, you do have the Lockheeds and General Dynamics and Boeing. So sort of again ties in with what we know about what the agency does, and this is where we are looking at creating those relationships with these larger companies. Next slide. Looking at the various NAICS codes and PSC codes, no surprises, shipbuilding and repair, very much one of your top spend areas, followed by aircraft manufacturing and engineering services. When you're looking at all of that, all of the NAICS codes, it sort of just so truly fits in with what the Navy does. And then, of course, we do have a pretty large component that is used, that is spent on, the commercial and institutional building. Looking at the PSC codes, it's more detailed and looks at, is giving you a better understanding of, what type of ships and aircrafts and nuclear reactors the spend's going to. So definitely helps looking at the PSC codes. Next slide. Looking at your small business contracts, the Navy as a whole awarded almost $18 billion to little less than 13,000 companies. And then this is just looking at the types of set-asides that are being used. And again, you do see the women-owned and the hub zone set-asides, which is always good to see. Next slide. Within the small business, when you start looking at those NAICS codes, they are pretty different and more varied or diverse than what we saw overall for the Navy. And then, of course, when we start looking at the companies that are winning these contracts, you see a nice mix of IT and I think some construction related work too. So next slide. I did want to touch on the contract spend that the Navy does on SBIRs and STTRs, sort of goes into that whole research and development piece of things. And we have more than $1 billion that was awarded to 742 companies. Have a quick look at the top companies, and it's again a nice mix. I mean, it's super cool to see that you get a really nice mix of companies when you start looking at some of the SBIRs and STTRs. Next slide. And then in terms of OTAs, I have 78 companies winning more than $1 billion. So, again, Consortium Management Group, one of very much up there, as also Advanced Technology International. So, these two organizations definitely do a lot of OTAs. I think that's what they do primarily, but, again, and they have their own process, if I mistake not, for getting on that OTA vehicle consortium. So do check out their websites if OTAs are something that you are interested in. Next slide. Looking at your top categories, aircrafts, very much up there. But interestingly, you have facilities and constructions at the top. And then that is where the Navy is doing really well in terms of its small business awards, where it's almost 32% of the total spend on facilities and construction. Next slide. And then again, let's look at your top GWACs that are being used. And Seaport E, NASA SOUP, definitely all the top three, accounting for almost 70% of the top GWACs that are being used. Next slide. And then when we're starting to look at that expiring contract piece, we do have got almost $120 billion that are awarding, that are expiring in the next 12 months. And these are, of course, only the contracts that are awarded as other than small business. Next slide. And then looking at your top businesses, I have a little bit of a problem there, but Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, Bath Iron Works, these are some of your top contracts that are expiring. And again, this is where we are creating relationships, understanding what might be coming up, talking to the primes, and seeing how you could be part of the team or, part of the mentor-protege type of agreements, things like that. Next slide. So looking at your small business contracts, I have about $17 billion that's expiring in the next 12 months. And my top companies include Patriot, Ocean Ships, Indus Technology. So again, a nice mix of companies from what I can see, at least from the names. Next slide. Looking further at the contracts that are expiring that were awarded as small business, always have a look at the ones that are, that set-asides have been used, specifically socioeconomic type of set-asides. Looking at 8A sole sources also is always helpful, especially if we put in searches of, if the existing incumbent's 8A is expiring. And then, of course, pay attention to the NAICS codes. And like I've spoken before, do use keywords, do use filters, so you're really narrowing down and understanding what could be your possible opportunities within the agency, in this case, the Navy. Next slide. And I think that's my perspective from just to give you a quick overview of how the spend is at the Navy. Colton,
thank you, Archisa. Thank you so much. And again, if you want to reach out to Archisa, we have her contact information in the following slides. We were unable to get a representative from Navy today, so I'm going to run through a couple of slides with a couple of links. So here are 2 links to the main agency departments for the Navy and to the link of the Small Business Office. And again, here is a link to the acquisition forecast, which is the same as the Marine Corps using the DoD, and that also applies for the SBA scorecard. It only shows the Department of Defense. And here is a link to Industry Days with the U.S. Navy. I believe they have an event on March 17th. And this is some of the best practices that the Navy recommends, and you can find this on our website. I'm just going to run through it very quickly. Make sure to identify your product and your service, and you can do this through the product service code at psctool.us. Register your business on SAM.gov. Research your market and understand how small businesses align with specific federal agencies. And for the last 2, market yourself, and finally bid on a contract. And again, you can find all of this information on the small business page of the U.S. Navy. Thank you for attending today, and thank you to our great speakers. The recording and slides will be available by close of business on Monday. Again, here is both of the speakers' contact information. We look forward to seeing you all next week as we cover doing business with special ops.